Shri P.K. Mukherjee, who was among the first few experts whom we heard as a part of the Fomento lecture series. We also acknowledge the presence of Shri Anand Naik. Thank you, sir, for being part of yet another Fomento lecture series. We also have with us other dignitaries of the days. Shri Duaji, welcome, sir, for the Fomento lecture series. And Prashant on this side. Sorry, sir. So, thank you very much, all the dignitaries, for being part of this Fomento lecture series. Our professors, Shri Sudarshan sir, and Ramrao sir, Professor Purva, and other fellow colleagues. Thank you very much for joining for the Fomento lecture series. With these few words, I would now like to request Vikas Gupta, an MBA student from Core Business School, to introduce the guests for today.
Shri Bibhuti Dash is an MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. He also holds a degree in Master in Public Management conducted jointly by National University of Singapore and Harvard University. He has been awarded Masters in Philosophy with distinction from Indian Institute of Public Administration, Delhi, and currently is a PhD scholar at IIT Delhi. He has worked in both private and public sector enterprises and has served for 33 years in the Indian Police Service before retiring as Director General of Police. He has published a book, Police in Blunderland, which details many of the sensational cases he was associated with and ethical dilemmas and situations faced in his long police career. Another book by him, Practical Ethics for Managers, is under publication. 4 of his papers have been presented by the Government of India to United Nations International Civil Aviation Organization, the highest policy-making world body for civil aviation. And the recommendations have been globally implemented. I now request Shri Bibhuti Dash to address the gathering.
It's an extreme privilege to have been invited here to be able to address such a distinguished and a large gathering. So the topic given to me is business ethics, and I believe all of you have had a full credit course in ethics. So let us see whether anything more could be added to it or anything has to be re-examined. When we guys, me, Mr. Prasad Sardesai and Mr. Sujit Guha Chaudhary, we were doing our MBAs, there was no course called business ethics, there was no course called ethics either. The first time I came across this strange animal was when I joined the civil services. We start our training at a place called Sweden. We assemble there people from different services for something called a foundation course. Unfortunately, at that point of time, or probably even now, ethics was not considered very important for civil servants. The entire training we had in ethics was assigned to exactly one lecture. The only concession given to its importance was that lecture was delivered by the director of the academy, who was a senior IS officer on the verge of retirement, secretary rank, Government of India officer. During that one lecture, he said something interesting. He said, ethics is an absolute thing. That is, you are either ethical or you are unethical. Like you are either married or you are unmarried. You can't be just a little married. Okay? Now, going through life, is it possible? Is it really possible to navigate your way with this kind of absolutist kind of principles? Let's see what happened during my own summer training when I was doing my MBA. That was with a company called McDowell and Company in Bombay. So what they had done was they had put up these huge hoardings in most of the busy intersections of Bombay like this. This was not a cutout. This was actually a three-dimensional bottle, huge bottles. And they had used some technology whereby the the liquid inside, it looked like there was some liquid inside and it was fizzing all the time. And the fizz had popped up that particular stopper. It was very eye-catching. But look at what they were saying. They were saying, make my McDowell's, the soda with spirit. Was this an advertisement for the soda? Anyone? Slightly louder, please. No? A resounding no. This was actually an advertisement for their premium liquor brand, namely McDowell #1 whiskey. Okay? Then as now, government has banned all advertisement in liquor. So they were bypassing the regulation through this kind of subterfuge. Now suppose, most of you will end up as managers tomorrow. Suppose you land up in a marketplace and you say, I will be ramrod straight. I am this absolutely ethical person. I will not bend. Come what may. I am Raja Harishchandra's scholar. And suppose in the marketplace, all your competitors, they are using this kind of smart tricks to get more and more market share. What will happen? What will happen is your boss or your bosses will call you up, call you in, and say, look, son, what alternative? Honesty is a good policy, but it just doesn't deliver. The point I'm trying to make is going through life or approaching ethics in these absolutist kind of terms may not be very feasible. In fact, it's actually a little counterproductive, because that one chance you have this ethical bearings, that one chance you have of making some difference or bringing in some change will be gone because you'll be losing your job. So quite possibly going through having a very absolutist kind of constructive ethics is actually incorrect. Everyone, there is that mythical creature doesn't really exist. Somebody who is 100% ethical or 100% unethical. Even amongst criminals, there is you might have heard about this honor amongst thieves. That mode is actually far more rigid than what we guys use in our day-to-day lives. So everybody in his own mind is ethical. Everybody has a mixture of ethics and lack of ethics. So what I will do is, you guys have already been taught a lot about ethics. What I will do is, I'll change the topic slightly. I'll cancel the ethics part, but I'll instead talk to you about this, how to be unethical. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to make criminals out of you, because although that will create more clients for me in the law, but I'm trying to tell you is there is a way. There's a way to be that ethical, unethical person, correct? Practically. What do you have to do for this? What you have to do is take a long, hard look at many of the theories that have been drilled. One of the theories you all must be familiar with. This is one old and very popular theory of ethics called consequentialism. How many of you have been taught about consequentialism? Any show of hands? It hasn't been covered in your ethics classes? No? Yes? No? Maybe? Everybody is looking blank. So I presume probably it has not been covered. But even if it has not been covered in your ethics courses, it is there. It is there in the background in most of your other courses, whether it is economics or marketing or finance or whatever. Essentially what it says is, given certain choices, we should try for the greatest good for the greatest number. Okay? Very simple to hear, but actually very complicated, because things like number and good, they are subject to very many interpretations. For example, what is good for a poor person may not be good for a rich person, etc. Now let's not go into that. Let's just stick to the layman interpretation of consequences. Latest code for the latest number, layman interpretation. Number is just the progression 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, etc. etc. And see what are the problems that get involved when you are applying consequences to your life. Okay. I listed down a few dilemmas here. We won't have time within our 1.5 hour lecture to go through all of them. We'll touch upon just 2 of them. Dilemma number 1, emergency victims in a hospital. Anybody familiar with this one? No? Suppose one day, one fine morning, an ambulance rolls in to an emergency ward of a hospital, carrying 3 victims of a very bad accident. Very bad accident. One of them requires a heart transplant immediately. One of them requires a liver transplant immediately. And one of them, both the kidneys have been damaged, he requires a kidney transplant immediately. Otherwise, they will die. It's a very bad accident. Okay? So good so far? Come on.
Yes.
Meanwhile, there is an otherwise healthy adult who is sitting in the outpatient department, who has come in with a flu or a common cold and waiting for a prescription. So one smart nurse who is steeped in consequentialism theory goes up to the doctor and whispers in his ear, saying, "Doctor, let's do one thing. Let's kill that guy in the outpatient department. Take out his heart and liver and kidney and transplant them into these 3 patients. We lose 1 patient, we'll gain 3. How many of you would support this kind of prescription? Anyone? Most of you are shaking your heads. In fact, most of you are acting with revulsion towards this kind of suggestion. But why? As far as consequentialism theory is concerned, it fits into the theory. The sum total utility of saving 3 lives is greater than the disutility of losing 1 life. So where is the problem? The problem is when you are shaking your head, when you are acting with revulsion towards this kind of suggestion, you are reasoning not on the basis of utility, not on the basis of utility. Your reasoning is based on something called justice. Even though some of you may not be able to verbalize it, deep within you feel that, look, it's so heinous, it's so unjust. That person who is sitting in the outpatient department, he has done nothing to merit this kind of fate. He has not volunteered to lose his life. He has come in for a common good. Why should he lose his life? The point is, whenever you have a theory of ethics, you need to interpret it correctly. If you interpret consequentialism or any other theory that you have taught, if you interpret consequentialism in terms of utility, purely in terms of utility, in this kind of situation, you get it wrong. Okay? Let's go to the next diagram. Most of us have traveled by trains. What happens? When a train is approaching a railway station, just a little before the railway station, there is a guy sitting on a slightly high kind of building with a bird's eye view of everything is called a points. And just before he approaches the railway station, he throws a switch, or the switch is by default put on that setting, so that the train is diverted from the main line to a loop line, which goes to the platform. People embark and disembark, and then it again starts and goes back to the main line. Suppose one day, just as a train is approaching that point where he is about to throw a switch, this linesman sees that there are 3 people loitering around in that loop line. These guys know that the train comes around at that time to that station, but they think that the train is still some distance away. They are just doing what you guys call time pass. They are doing time pass there. So what does this guy do? What does the linesman do? Will he still put it on the loop line, or will he keep it on the main line? Most probably he will keep it on the main line, so that these 3 lives will be saved. Suppose simultaneously he sees another person, a railway staff, he is engaged in some legitimate pair work on the main line. He has been given that task with the full understanding that the train will be diverted to the loop line, and he is engaged in his task. He also does not know that the train has closed. Now what is the license? When I conduct a workshop and put it to the students, again the ratio is 1:3. Either you save one life or you save 3 lives. Again, most of the students say that, look, why should he lose his life? So let the train be put on the loop line and let these 3 lives go to hell. Which is just like the previous one. The same reaction, the same reasoning also. Reasoning based on justice. But look at what happens if I change the number. Suppose I say there were not 3 people, there were 10 people. Now some people start waiting. And they say, okay, if 10 people's lives are involved at the expense of one life, let's think a little more. And some people switch over and say, let's do it. But some people, majority still stay on the main line. Let's put it on the main line. But majority of the people still think that it's because of the loop line. But as I play around with the number, when I increase the number to 20 or 30 or 40, then more and more people switch over to putting it on the main line. As the number goes very high, when it goes something like 100 or 200, most of the people switch over. The point of the law is here is of ethics, including consequentialism, operate in context. So just a priori application of the theory is absolutely wrong. Whenever in your real life, what is called real life, you are faced with an ethical dilemma kind of situation, don't apply your theory in a knee-jerk manner. Do take a pause and do look around what all are involved in that situation. Maybe when you get all the details, you will come up with a slightly different or a drastically different interpretation of the same theory as it applies to that context. Okay? Now let's go to another theory, which again is a very popular theory, and probably Professor Ode will kill me for this. It is his area. Very powerful theory, which has held sway for an extraordinarily long time in management thinking. Originally propounded by the famous economist Milton Friedman of the Chicago School, is called the agency theory. In its essence, it says that manager is basically just an agent of the shareholders who own the company. So their entire focus has to be geared towards that particular thing. Their entire focus has to be geared to increase shareholder value. So if by any action which is to their mind ethical, you are reducing shareholder value, by the very nature of this theory and your job, you are being unethical. So what is the corollary? Suppose a manager is to set up a factory which has serious implications of environmental degradation, and his personal ethics militates against it and revolts at it. On the basis of this theory, he is being unethical because he is reducing shareholder value. The theory says it is not the manager's job. This is for other agencies. This is for the legislature or for the enforcement agency, etc., etc. Manager's job is just to increase the shareholder value, as a result of which he should be focused on profit maximization. Very good theory, very powerful theory. Unfortunately, this theory is based on a few very wrong postulates. As I keep reminding everyone around me, there is a version of it in civil services also, and I go for lectures in our training academies. If you believe in absurdities, you will commit atrocities. Let us examine these postulates. First postulate is shareholders. Are the shareholders really the be-all and end-all of enterprise? They are not. They are just one of the groups of stakeholders. There are other stakeholders like employees, creditors, suppliers, customers, the community it serves, the larger society. So all these people, all these stakeholder groups, they have a claim on the manager's mandate. So you cannot just focus on just one group of the stakeholders. Secondly, they say shareholders provide all the money, so they should get all the returns. Labor can be, other people can be paid for whatever the market wears. They are malai. The cream has to be taken by the shareholders. Is this correct? Suppose what is this? The shareholders give. They give the money. So if I put the money on that table, what will happen? Nothing will happen. It will just stay on there and the table will do nothing. After some time it will become crumpled and it will get destroyed. For production, we need different factors of production. For production of goods and services. Shareholders supply only one factor of production, which is capital. Capital by itself will not do it. The other factors you are familiar with, like land, labor, management. What is a little less talked about is the role of knowledge, goodwill, subsidized contribution of the state. Now, suppose you put up a factory somewhere, it cannot operate on its own. There has to be a road leading up to the factory. There has to be a banking infrastructure. There has to be a marketing infrastructure. Then only the enterprise can operate. All these things are provided by the society or by the government or a combination of both through social contributions or through taxpayers' money. So all of these have also a claim on what the returns are accruing to the enterprise. Third, they say the shareholders are taking all the risks, so they should get all the returns. I submit it to you. Contrary to this, not only that the shareholders do not take all the risks, they do not even take the maximum risk. In fact, they take the least risk. It is easy for a shareholder just to take sell his shares and work out with his capital, put it in something else. For an employee, it is 1,000 times more. For all the other stakeholders, it is way more difficult than a shareholder. When you go into your job, when you become a little senior, it will be very difficult for you to even relocate. The risks that we take, for example, the risk that the environment is taking, is sometimes irreversible. And there are enough there is enough study. Am I audible? Is it working on fine? Yes. Person in the last bit, if anyone can raise his hand. Yeah, good. So, an environmental degradation is actually irreversible, and there are enough studies to indicate that the people who suffer the most under the lowest section of the society, we will not go into that, these exist. Fourthly, the obsession with profit maximization. Do shareholders really want profit maximization? It is possible that shareholders might want other things. They might want sustainable development. They might want growth as opposed to profit maximization. Nobody sits around and asks. You just give an formulation saying profit maximization is all that. Finally, there are shareholders and shareholders. Do all shareholders want the same thing? There might be a large majority of shareholders who might want profit maximization. But meanwhile, there might be shareholders who might be more socially inclined. The Infosys vision statement says we want to be the most respected company on earth. Things like that. Suppose they are a minority also. Who is to say that the interest of the minority shareholders is any less important than the interest of the majority shareholders? I have any problem. Okay. So who is to say that the interest of the majority shareholders is more important than the minority shareholders is any less important? Okay. So you have to apply these theories correctly. I have no beef with the agency theory. I don't know why Professor Bobby has left, but I have no beef. The point is, it's a good theory, it applies, but it need not apply to all the context and need not be applied blindly. If you want to avoid a situation, this is also one form of level playing field. But is it working out to a level playing field for that small boy in the purple shirt? This is applying level playing field by giving the same rule, the same height of stool, each of these three. But it is not working out to, it is based on equality, but it is not working out to level playing field. The correct level playing field is the right hand side. Okay? So, contrary to equality-based, rule-based ethics, the better way to go is equity-based, outcome-based ethics. So, suppose you are an HR manager, which some of you will be tomorrow. You will be recruiting people, and suppose you have one single rule. You are lucky that fakir agar ban gaye, and you will say that everybody will climb this tree up to 100 meters within such and such seconds. And suppose your candidates include a monkey, not a monkey, but a monkey-like person. You will climb it very quickly, but may not be a very good or as good a person for the company as a fish which can't climb it. On the other hand, you change the route and have one single route for everybody, 1 kilometer race, swimming track, or within so many seconds, monkey will fail. The point is, having a one-size-fits-all approach will not work. The equity-based, outcome-based ethics is the better one. Are you guys familiar with the distinction between morality and ethics? Can you raise your hands, anybody? Familiar with the distinction between morality and ethics? No? Essentially, morality is the personal right. It is the deeply held personal value system which comes out of the circumstances of your birth, how you were brought up, your upbringing, the education and learnings, etc. that you get exposed to, the kind of circumstances and situations that you go through, and with your own intelligence, how you interpret them. All these, they coalesce into, over time, they coalesce into certain value systems inside. Meanwhile, ethics is just a code. It is a code given to you by your ethical environment or your organization or your laws and all those professions and all that. Now all three combined. The problem is always 100%. There always be a conflict between your personal morality and the ethics. Whenever you join the organization, as soon as you join the organization, some of you might have worked earlier also, the conflict between the personal compass and the organizational compass will always start. I'll give you an example. It's actually quite a big example in a celebrated case in Harvard University, where one of the courses I took was the ethics course. There's a very large group of people, a whole sect of Christianity, which believes that the entire life form comes into being at the moment of conception. They don't make distinction between embryo and fetus and a full baby. For them, as soon as conception happens, there is a full life before. As a result, these people are anti-choice, they are anti-abortion. Okay, suppose there is a person who has been steeped in this, he has been brought up like this, all through his reading or whatever. He grows to believe this very strongly, it's a very strong belief, and he wants to learn a medical profession. He can do that. You can do that by adopting a small strategy of being a conscientious objector. Okay, you will declare upfront saying, look, these are my deeply held beliefs, So, for whatever reason, so let me be allowed not to participate in or facilitate abortion in any way. On the other hand, all the other requirements of the medical profession I will fulfill to the best of my ability with due diligence and utmost commitment. You will be allowed to do it. Fine? Suppose such a person finds himself in an emergency ward at 2 o'clock in the morning as the only doctor, and a female patient is brought in at an advanced stage of pregnancy in a very critical situation. It's not a full-term baby, and the choice becomes between saving the mother or trying to save the unborn child, where the chances of its survival are very low. What would you do? It's just before this class, we were talking about how decisions have to be taken very quickly. In this situation, he doesn't have the luxury of time to call in another doctor. Seconds are ticking by. He has to take a decision. What is his personal rule saying? Personal morality saying? He is deeply averse to anything to do with abortion. But the medical profession mandates that in such a situation, when the choice becomes between saving the life of the mother or the unborn child or fetus, you save the life of the mother. What he did, this was actually happened to a real person who had attended that course before I did, and one of the assignments was converted in this case. What he did is still being debated about. This illustrates to you how extreme and how severe this conflict between the personal and the professional can be. All the time, you will have 3 sets of conflicts. The conflict between the personal integrity, the professional ethics, and the shared convention. You will be tugging at each other all the time. You need to navigate your way through that. It's just a funny depiction, but what is not no offense meant to any profession, but what is not so funny is this picture. Anybody familiar with this particular picture? It's a very famous, yes, celebrated. Somebody? Anyone amongst the students who is familiar? This is a picture taken by a professional photographer called Kevin Carter of South Africa. This was taken in Sudan. This depicts a small child who is crawling towards a United Nations Food Relief Center. His strength has given up, it has collapsed. And there is a vulture nearby, eyeing the child, waiting patiently for it to die. Okay. This was published in the New York Times on March 26, 1993, and it became a worldwide sensation. This picture actually jolted people out of their complacency all over the world, and they suddenly realized how grim and how dire the famine situation in Africa, many African countries, and Sudan were. And it resulted in a lot of donations and funds flowing into the relief efforts. It won the photographer the Pulitzer Prize for feature photography. However, it also elicited a lot of mixed reactions. One of the readers of New York Times wrote in, saying, it appears that Kevin Carter did his job well as a photographer, but on a scale of 1 to 10, his humanness ranks as a -10. Okay? Another reader wrote, the article indicates that the child collapsed outside of a nearby relief center. Obviously, nearby was too far for this child, but was near enough for Kevin Carter to position his camera, take photographs, walk back into the relief center and forget about her. How could anyone forget Now these were pre-internet, pre-smartphone times, 1993. It was not possible to instantaneously transmit a photograph. So Kevin Carter had to catch an even flight back to South Africa to dispatch a photograph for publication. Plus, many of the photographers, professional photographers, it is written into them that they should have an objective detachment from the subject of the photography. Be that as it may, later Kevin Carter is supposed to have confided to one of his friends, saying, "I'm really sorry I didn't pick the child up." Meanwhile, Kevin Carter has become a celebrity. He was appearing on a lot of interviews, a lot of TV shows, a lot of radio talk shows. In one of the radio talk shows, the caller asked him about a particular situation, asked him a lot of technical details regarding the lighting, the camera. He asked him about the event relief center, the distance between the child and the relief center, the condition of the child, and about the virtue. And then he said, "Mr. Kevin Carter, I put it to you, there were two virtues. One was putting the camera." Shortly after this particular call, Kevin Carter committed suicide. Although whether it was related to this particular call or not is not known. But it shows you how dire, how extreme the tug, the conflict between the personal and the professional can be in your real life. As soon as you join an organization, most of you will be joining the corporate sectors and will be joining any other profession. This between the personal and professional is common. Also, what will happen is your professional part, the requirement from the professional, much of it will not be, you find some of them in the rules and circulars, much of it will not be written, much of it you pick up at the water cooler or coffee days or in your informal conversations with your colleagues, with your mates, or seniors. They will keep telling you, "Look, this is the way to work here, this is a strict movement here, etc., etc." As you are going through it and doing your own personal growth, do take a moment to see the distinction between the stated objectives and the expected outcomes. Okay? In my profession, in every case of police firing, the law mandates that there will be a magistrate. Are you familiar with all that? What is the stated purpose of the magistrate? The stated purpose of the magistrate inquiry is to examine the circumstances, ascertain the facts, and see whether the firing was justified. If somebody has died, the death was justified. Every single cop I came across, every single magistrate I came across in my entire career, I saw them approaching the inquiry with the belief, a firm belief, that the only purpose of the inquiry is to exonerate the police officer so that the minister can stand tall in the assembly of the parliament and proclaim he did a full, fair, and impartial inquiry and everything is okay. You examine this distinction and whether the expected outcome is actually the desired outcome. Okay? All of you are, most of you know this. And just behind are MBA students, and it starts in your eyes. And tomorrow you'll be joining different jobs. Either you already have certain role models, everybody needs a hero, or you will develop role models. You'll find there are a lot of these very iconic people in any profession. And you also feel that they have those huge heights and wow, what a great thing. But sometimes what happens is, one moment they're flying very high and touching the sun, and suddenly without any warning, they come down to the earth. they fall from grace. I'll give you 3 examples from the corporate sector with which I am familiar. He incidentally was also the co-founder of ISP, our premier business school. Ramalinga Raju was the poster boy of Indian IT capabilities, and Chanda Kochar was the high priestess of high finance. She was the CFP of the then largest private sector bank, ICICI. Now I think it's the second largest. HDFC has taken over. Now, by the way, Chanda Kochar completed her MBA from Bajaj Institute of Management in 1984 as a gold medalist. The same year, me and Mr. Sai and Mr. Roha Chaudhary passed out from IIM Bangalore. Look at what has happened. Rajat Gupta spent 2 years in jail. Ramalinga Raju spent a little longer in jail. And Chanda Kochar's husband has just come out of jail after a year and a half. She herself is either gone in or she's fighting tooth and nail to somehow escape jail. What is this phenomenon? These are all very bright people. And at some point they must have been idealistic people like you with stars in their eyes. They did very well. What happened? What is this phenomenon? This is a phenomenon called the phenomenon of a slippery slope. We guys have all played these slides when we were kids, most of us. Now what happens? On a slide, when you are going down, up to a particular point, you have control. And then in that gray area, somewhere around there, you lose control and then there is a precipitate fall. You cannot retrieve yourself. A similar thing happened to these people. They were going fine. At some point, they lost their moral bearings. They lost the capability to distinguish between right and wrong. And then there was no redemption for them. Why is this? Why? I have identified 4 pitfalls. As you grow into your job or your profession, what will happen is slowly you become more and more powerful. You will acquire power. What is power? Power is the number of people who are influenced by your decisions multiplied by the magnitude of that influence. So, as you grow into your job, even if you are not doing much, your power will grow. The problem is, this power is very intoxicating. You get addicted. So, you would like to acquire more. That creates the first problem. That leads to this thinning out, blurring of the distinction between right and wrong. That is why it is called absolute power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. Okay. Secondly, in your hurry to climb that ladder of success or at a sublimated level, in your hurry to take your organization from point A to point B or C or whichever point you take it to as quickly as possible, you will start indulging in a few shortcuts. These will be, to begin with, these will be very innocent shortcuts. But the end result will be good, so that people will applaud your efforts and they will say, look, you did the shortcut, but a great result we had. It had not occurred to us. He had the sagacity, he or she had the sagacity to do it. Slowly, small shortcuts will lead to bigger shortcuts. They will lead to smaller influences and bigger influences and so on. And you will keep getting away with it. As a result of which, you will develop an aura of invincibility. You will think, mess up, nothing can touch me. I'll get away with it. And I know the truth. I am the proof that is the truth. Okay? The third thing is, what happened is, like Raja Chandra, they had achieved much more than what they had set out to achieve. And they were sitting as students like you, probably in their wildest dreams also, they may not have thought of where they have already gone. Why did they keep on doing it? As Ramalendra Raju said right after his arrest, he said it was like riding a tiger by the tail without knowing when to get off. Why did it happen? What happens is you develop something called ambition without purpose. Despite having all the money in the world, despite having all the power and intelligence, you like to keep on acquiring more and more so that it is a validation of your existence. Or at a sublimated level, if you are a member of a company or a big guy or company, you keep on acquiring more and more companies without it improving your bottom line. Okay? It's like, being on a treadmill and keep on increasing the speed and keep on running faster and faster without even bothering about the end result and what it is doing to you. The fourth and the most dangerous one is suppression of guilt through rationalization. You will be knowing, in your heart of hearts, you will be knowing you are indulging in a transgression or you are indulging in a crime. But you will start suppressing all that guilt by rationalizing in many ways. Initially, you will suppress saying this was required for the situation. Then you will suppress your guilt saying this was required for my career. Then you will suppress it by saying this was helping my subordinates. Then you will say this was good for the organization, so I was doing it. And if the organization is big enough, or if you're arrogant enough, you might even be arrogant enough to think that you're doing it for the country. Why is it important to note and beware of this absolutely serious danger of falling from grace? Is it really important? The reason it is important is if you have a competence slip-up, we all make mistakes. You will make mistakes. As a marketing manager, you might forecast the demand wrong. As a personnel manager, you might recruit the wrong guy. These are all competence slip-ups. These led themselves to course correction. You can go back to your original position. Unfortunately, with an ethical slip-up, you can never go back to status quo ante. When you are damaged ethically, you stay damaged goods forever to some extent. More importantly, your organization, when it is ethically damaged, it never goes back to status quo ante. That is where people look at Reliance differently and Tata differently. People look at Jet Airways differently, Vistara Airlines differently. So that is the serious danger of this. Having said all of this, you might ask yourself, how is it relevant to me? You can say, look, I know my capabilities, either or my inclinations, either I will never be this high flyer or I don't want to be a high flyer. So why should I be bothered about all these things? Whenever any dilemma comes, I will see whatever is right and whatever is wrong, and I will choose the right path. Why should I sit around for a boring 1.5 hour long lecture? See, this reasoning is quite good. When there is an ethical dilemma you face, and in your own mind at least, something is absolutely correct and something is absolutely wrong, choose the correct. So far, so unfortunately, this particular thinking doesn't go far. In your role as a manager or any other role, most of the time you will not be faced with right versus wrong values. Most of the time what you will be faced with are the right versus right choices, whereby all the choices, usually two, both of them will be right, and you have to choose one of them. Unfortunately, each of them will have very different consequences for a whole lot of different people. Broadly, this kind of dilemma falls into four categories. The first category is good for the long term versus good for the short term. These are the quick profit versus growth. Versus a fast growth, but versus a sustainable environment. This kind of dilemma. The second one is good for the individual versus good for the community. I'll give you a stylized example. Suppose you are a librarian, and the library has a strict code with its subscribers saying that the subscribers' details will be kept confidential. And one day you receive a call. Somebody, one subscriber, asking you about the books you have on the way clause, and you give the subscriber the information and put the phone down. Meanwhile, the call like me, sitting in the library, overhears your conversation and approaches you and asks you for the details of this subscriber, telling you that there has been a spate of rapes in the neighborhood, so he would like to interrogate him. He does not have any basis for this. He's just fishing around in the dark. What will you do? What is good for you as an individual and your subscriber as an individual? What is good is not to reveal that information, because otherwise you'll be violating that code. And suppose the subscriber is innocent, he will be subject to an undue and vexatious information. We all know what happens when the police lands up at your house, what the neighbors think of you, what you yourself go through. So he'll be subjected to all that from no fault of mine. He might be preparing for a term paper or something on the law student. Meanwhile, suppose he is a corporate and your withholding that information leads to a spate of further waves in the government. It will be bad for the community that you have withheld that information. These are that kind of third kind, the second kind of dilemmas. Third kind is truth versus clarity. Suppose you are an HR manager in an organization, which is under the organization, and some branches will be locked off and some new branches will be added or large number of jobs are in the line. One of your colleagues approaches you asking whether his branch is on the block. We face the axe. Now the truth obligation obliges you to tell him the truth. On the other hand, you have loyalty to the company, the bound by that code. You are not supposed to do this and that. The fourth and final one is justice versus mercy. I keep taking these workshops, ethics workshops in some of these management institutes. One of the ethics workshops, there was an evaluation of attachment, and they were supposed to submit the assignment by midnight or a particular date at the time of the institute. So some of the students failed. So some of them failed because they had plagiarized and it was unethical conduct in ethics course, which was considered bad. But some of them failed because we did not meet that deadline. Is it okay for the institute to be very rigid and left party equation, left arrow, and stick to justice? Saying rule is rule, it's for everybody. Now, exonerating you who did not meet that deadline would be unfair to the people, the students who made the effort of meeting that deadline. It will be okay, is it eternal? It is cast in stone. Look at the circumstances. This was happening during the peak of second wave of COVID. Most of the people were running around trying to arrange for oxygen cylinders or hospital beds, even some kind of medical attention for the near and dear ones. Some of the students might have been taken ill themselves. Given that circumstance, is it possible? Is it possible to take a slightly merciful approach, do a case by case analysis, and see whether the person is a habitual offender or whether there is possibility for course correction in the future? So, this is what What I prescribe for you, I normally don't prescribe anything here. What I prescribe for you is you will be facing all the right versus right dilemmas all the time. The first thing that you do is slot and pigeonhole them into harmonies or categories. Okay, and then you have to find your own solution. And I think you always have to find your own solution. Slowly, you develop your own deadlines and boundaries for each of these categories. And then, whatever decision you take, the probability will increase, but when you think back upon it after a decade or two or so, it might stand the test. No guarantees in ethics, but it might just. So, this is in a nutshell, right versus right dilemmas, which will come across all the time. What you will not come across all the time, but you might come across very rare dilemmas are the wrong versus wrong dilemmas. These are dilemmas where whatever choice you adopt, there will be choices made. Whatever choice you adopt will be an ethically wrong choice. Okay, whatever you do, you will come out of it with your hands dirty. That is what these are called, dirty hands kind of situation. I think it's probably not making sense to you. Let me give you an example from my own life. Suppose I have arrested a hardcore terrorist who has planted a few bombs in a crowded area. And the bombs will go off anytime. What are the options? Option A, I let the bombs go off, killing certain. The blood of all those people, all those lives behind my head. Okay. Option B, I will indulge in what is euphemistically called enhanced interrogation, what you would call third degree of torture, whereby I'll be violating his human rights in a very basic and probably a very major way because he is a hardcore terrorist, so the intervention will probably have to be brutal. He might lose his life or limb. Meanwhile, they might not be the right culprit. And even despite the intervention, he might not reveal to the location, in which case, again, I have taken an ethically wrong decision. Even if I crack the case, I've still taken an ethically wrong decision by violating the human rights very badly. And a third option, which is not an option at all, I might say to myself that in my whole psyche, I'm so torn between these two extreme dilemmas that I quit. I opt in quit, which is not an option because then I'm abdicating the responsibility that I signed up for. And still all the blood will be on my head. Okay, this is a kind of situation which rarely happens, but it can happen. It has happened. But all choices are ethically wrong choices and very severely wrong choices. What I'll probably do is, probably I will indulge in this enhanced interrogation. Probably I'll crack the case and say so many lives. Hopefully the guy will survive the interrogation, he might die. But observe what will happen when you do that. I will take you back to that slippery slope slide. I am around that step 1. I am all innocent, all steeped in morality and all those things. I have indulged in this very drastic violation of human rights and unethical act. And I have saved so many lives. I become overnight where the TV cameras for the evening, I evening satellites all over the place. Next time, another severe case, but not so drastic happens. Suppose there is a brutal rape or murder, or a very bad murder. I reference myself back to this earlier incident, and I'll say, yeah, it was correct back then. So I again indulge in enhanced deprivation and torture. Again, probably I've cracked the case. Again, I'll be a success story, but that halo will start shrinking. Okay, slowly, what will happen is I go down that path, in that grey area, I will use our diaries, and I go down slowly, so steep, that even for very minor pickpocket kind of crime, also I don't think twice about indulging in torture and flogging. And I will become one of those despicable creatures you read about, like the serial fake encounter specialists on extortionists and so on. This is what is going to happen. Look at the side effects. I indulge in the family, crack the case, I become a huge hero. My subordinate is watching, and he will probably hear about it. He will get inspired. He'll say, wow, some people have come here. Hungry साथ में से. In the corporate parlance, you might say, hungry he will indulge in even more brutal isolation. His subordinates and colleagues will get further inspired. Slowly, the entire organization and the entire society will get destroyed. This is the serious and real behaviors of this. How will you do it? You might face the situations. How will you do it? I have to do a few things. First and foremost, I have to realize that this is not a common thing. This doesn't happen day in and day out. This is one of those very extreme, very dire kind of situation. So I'm not supposed to reference it to any other case. Easier said than done. It can be done if I say to myself that look, this is a one-off thing. And what has happened is it is making me do this unethical thing, but it is giving me what is called a moral opportunism. Because I have to take an ethically wrong decision. That is the opportunism thing that I am exploiting. Okay. However, having exploited opportunism, I must have what is called a moral decision. That is, I must realize that an ethically wrong decision is still a wrong decision. A wrong decision, a ethically wrong decision can never be justified. All that can be done is because of the very extreme one-off kind of circumstance, it can probably be excused. There's a word difference between something being justified and something being excused. But I must retain that moral residue. I must feel guilty throughout my life. Then and only then I will not reference it in other situations, and I will go right back to the beginning point of the story. Further, what I have to do is, before taking that decision, I have to put myself in the other person's shoes or toes or their feet, as professors used to say. Everybody has a point of view, and if I examine it from that point of view, maybe I will come up with a different conclusion. Okay, I am here. What is happening? I am basing my decision on a certain set of assumptions, which is to save the lives. The human rights activist who is yelling at me, he also has a viewpoint by which this kind of drastic human rights violation will strict no one come out of it. Let thousands of people die. He also has a viewpoint. I have to first analyze that, putting myself in his shoes. Okay? And the very important thing is I have to check whether I have exhausted the entire number of possibilities. I gave you 3 choices. Was that the entire that is letting the bombs go off, human rights violation, or quitting the job? Have I examined it thoroughly? Have I examined whether I can probably evacuate that entire area? It will be probably a logistical nightmare or probably it will be done.
Probably I have requisition or helicopter or a plane from the student that use have that power and completely douse the area uncomfortable but will serve the purpose. So, for example, of possibilities, these are a few questions one has to ask in a dirty hands-on situation. I will not read through them. Please read through them at your own pace and see if anything sticks. Number 8 is the most important, the unintended consequences. I told you about the effect on our position in the society. So there will be unintended consequences which we cannot foresee actually when taking the decision. But you have to be prepared to take responsibility for them. So what you have to do is you have to indulge in something called double reflection. Okay? So those who understand the moral viewpoint of others are that much more competent and resourceful in addressing common problems. So essentially, you have to think very deeply. You have to think ahead. You have to think again. And you have to think across. So, what have we learned, if anything? These are a few of the takeaways. There are no absolutes. Ethics operates in a context. Remember that mainline rule line example I gave. Secondly, if you believe in absurdities, you commit atrocities. Shareholders are not gods. Stakeholder approach is the way to go. Third, that while the purple shirt, equity rather than equality, outcome based rather than rule based ethics. Ethical success depends upon ethical navigation of the conflicts between the ethical environment versus the professional requirement versus the personal ethics. The manager has to choose between the right and right ethical options most times and between wrong and wrong options sometimes. A slippery slope is a constant, clear and present danger. During all dilemmas, it pays to think ahead, think again, and think across. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. I'd like to close with a quotation from a Roman philosopher named Seneca. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. I wish you all very good nights. Thank you.